Qualcomm, another chip stonk that crushed it. They were up after hours nearly 5.5% when they issued their second quarter earnings, and it was the last earnings for CEO Steve Mollenkopf, who handed the torch to Cristiano Amon.
Yeah, absolutely. We had the opportunity to spend a little time with Steve ahead of that earnings call. It's always been an honor to get insights, having Steve and Cristiano talking to us. I mean, look, the company's doing really, really well. It's coming off a tumultuous series of years. Speaking of Apple with its litigation, FTC, regulation around the world, had its NXP deal killed by regulators and slow-moving decision makers. The company has not had the easiest set of years, but what it has had, and what I said for quarter after quarter, was the tailwind of 5G is going to be important to the longevity and the momentum, and Qualcomm's there. And I admire Steve and what he helped the company get through, but I'm also excited to see new leadership. Cristiano is a passionate, inspirational personality that I think is going to be really technology focused, hopefully getting away from some of that legal and regulatory. It won't go away, but just being a little bit more out there talking about the tech. I mean, in terms of the earnings themselves, $1.90 versus $1.67. The earnings, the revenue came in at almost just under $8 billion, about $400 million. It's funny when it says 7.93 versus 7.62, and you go, that's not that big of a beat. Yeah, you're right. It was only $300 million. I love how with multi-trillion-dollar stimuluses, Pat, now we know stimuli, we no longer look at hundreds of millions as a big number. It's a really big beat. Here's a thing, Pat, that I would really want people who are listening to this podcast to be thinking about with Qualcomm is 5G handsets is a core part of the business, and the momentum behind that 5G business is important. Year over year, we saw a 53% growth in handset business. That is the 5G wave. You're seeing it happening. They haven't revised their total handset number up from the 450 to 550 million 5G handsets yet, but that number and that revision maybe could be coming, Pat. I think you might have even asked a question about that. But here's the other part of what I thought was very interesting about Qualcomm. $2 billion plus, over 1/3 of their revenue is not tied to handsets on their technologies business. You had their RF front end business. They've, against Skyworks and Qorvo and Broadcom, emerged a leader, nearing $1 billion a quarter, up almost 40%. Their automotive business hitting nearly $250 million, up 40% as well. And then finally, 71% growth, Pat, in their IoT business, which is now a $1 billion business for the company. So we think of handsets, we think of 5G, we might even think about licensing and intellectual property when we think about Qualcomm. What we don't think about are all these adjacencies that are now generating 1/3 of the technology's revenue and growing about as fast as the handset business, meaning that within a few quarters, that could be easily a $3 billion business, giving a lot of runway and a lot of trajectory for growth at Qualcomm.
Wow. There's about a molecule of oxygen left in there. It was it's great analysis. And I want to echo, it was a real honor to, you and I both talked to Steve and Cristiano about the earnings. And I thought that those two made an incredible pairing. I'm even more excited to see kind of what happens next with Cristiano at the helm. And I really think Cristiano's legacy needs to be, what did Qualcomm do outside of wireless, right? And it's hard for me to separate RF handset and digital modems. Those are part of smartphones, right? And you need a analog and a digital portion to make the magic happen. So I'm really interested to see when it comes to AI, when it comes to IoT and automotive, where the company can go. I think we're going to see a rate of acceleration at Qualcomm in terms of what happens and how it happens. And I'm super excited to see where it goes, because the engineers who work at Qualcomm are brilliant. The company is best at solving the hardest problems. And wireless, particularly when, I remember the naysayers saying, oh, 5G, yeah, it's easy to have a separate digital and a separate analog function without working. And Qualcomm's like, I think this is going to be really difficult here. And that's part of the magic behind their incredible analog business today, which, like you said, is the biggest handset RF front end business in the industry, bigger than Skyworks, bigger than Qorvo, and bigger than Broadcom. So strap your helmets on, folks. Cristiano is in town. New sheriff in town. Let's see what happens.
Absolutely, Pat. 54% year over year and 116% earnings growth. I didn't say that earlier, just reminding everyone. Pretty darn impressive. But Kramer's mad. Stock price should be up more.